Welcome to the SaaS Revolution Show, a podcast by SaaStock. Here we interview SaaS founders from around the world who've been there and done that, as they share the ins and outs of how they built their businesses, their operations, their path to securing investment, and more. Our mission with the podcast is to help you, the founder, learn how to scale your SaaS, maintain your well-being, and navigate the complexities of this ever-changing industry. I'm your host, Alex Theuma, and together we'll explore the good, the bad, and the ugly in the journey to SaaS success. Welcome back to the SaaS Revolution Show. I am your host, Alex Theuma, CEO founder of SaaStock, also general partner at Back Future Ventures. Delighted to be joined today by Dan Hobbs, who is the CEO, co-founder at Protex AI. Do you just say Protex or do you say .ai as well, Dan?
Yeah, we used to say Protex internally. Some call us Protex AI. So a bit of a mix. My mom called us Protex A1 still, so still trying to get her on board with us.
Yeah. Well, I just on that. I actually haven't had. It seems like my kids they know all about AI, right? They're like 8 and 10. No, 9 and 10 now. One of them's just had their birthday, right? But I think. Certainly for many years, I've been doing SaaStock for 10 years now, and probably like the first 5 years, my partner didn't really know what SaaS or cloud is, and my trying to explain to my mum what SaaS or cloud is, like I haven't even bothered. But it's quite interesting to see actually how my kids like know everything about AI or will spot like AI videos and so on. So maybe we'll just have to do less of that with this new generation, but the old generation will be calling us A1 and wondering where the cloud is,
Exactly.
etc. But Dan, thanks for coming on. Are you in Dublin?
Currently in Dublin, in our Dublin office. We just opened new offices actually out here, but usually based in Boston.
Okay, very good. So how much time you spend between both? Are you kind of more permanently in Boston?
I'm actually, I split my time. I was just talking to a guy earlier that someone asked was I jet lagged, and I was like, I don't even know anymore because I'm just spending my time between Boston, Dublin. We opened up a London office as well. And we have a Boston office, and then we're opening up in other areas in Europe. But I spend about, I'd say 70% of my time in the States, maybe 60 to 70%, and then the rest in the Dublin and London office.
And so Dan, like we always kick off the show, just wanted to get to know the guests a little bit more. So we'd love to know, who is Dan Hobbs?
Sure. Yeah, kind of my life story. Not without going into too much detail. So I'm from Ireland, from a place just west of Dublin in Kildare, a place called Maynooth. So right at the end of the train line for a lot of them commuting in. But I did a economics degree in college in Dublin, and I remember I went into college thinking I was going to work in the EU and learn French, and I realized I'm really shit at French. So that was a quick dream down the drain, and got into startup very early. So I started my first company called Better Examinations, which is an exam software company for universities while I was in college, and built that for a couple of years after, and we sold that to a company called Terminal 4 in 2019. And then I stuck around for a year to learn how companies worked and whatnot. Got like the sales function and then product. And then Kieran, my co-founder for Protex, we've known each other since we were like 11 years old. So we actually met at a national science fair, the Young Scientist in Dublin. Being the cool guys we were, some kids go out and learn how to live. We were too busy sticking inside doing science experiments. So we met at that and always kept in touch. But before Protex, but I've always kind of had an interest in science and technology, from a really young age, and haven't had to have a resume or a CV just because I've been starting companies, which is a nice place to be in. So excited about kind of where we're at right now.
Just on the science side, like what sort of science experiments were you doing at the science fair? Was there like a competition, and was Kieran, a little bit, did he beat you? Or like who won, or was it a joint thing?
Do you know what? I was I did a couple projects with my brother, who's definitely the brains behind it. I ended up I did all those competitions, ended up doing an economics degree, so it kind of spoke to itself. But Kieran was the whiz. He's probably the smartest person I've come across ever, but also can have a pint. Although he barely drinks beer, he drinks cider, poor fella. But he can still have a pint and shoot good conversation at the same time. But he was a lot better than me technically. But at the same time, I think we won more prizes than he did, so I still have that to hold over him today.
And so why did you and Kieran start Protex? What is it like? What was the desire to build this business?
Sure. So maybe just as a quick overview, what Protex is we link in with existing CCTV infrastructure in like factories and warehouses to identify behavior patterns that lead to physical accidents. So someone getting hit by a forklift or ergonomic issues or things like that. So we're able to predict injuries happening on sites. So we work with Fortune 500 companies. But for context, like before starting Protex, I'd never stepped into a factory, never been on a warehouse before, which was quite funny.
Yep.
So it was very random us coming across this problem. We almost had a solution before a problem, which sounds strange. So Kieran was doing a PhD in computer vision in Limerick, and we were trying to figure out where we could put this cool technology. So we actually looked at drones was our first idea for a company. So we looked at creating I told people the story where we created a drone guard dog. So if your house got robbed, the drone would like dispatch and chase the person like a mini police helicopter for 2 miles.
Quite terrifying.
Quite terrifying. We had no nets on it or no sort of weapons on it at that time, but it was nearly impossible. And then we heard crazy stories of people falling overboard and on cruise ships and disappearing into the sea. And we thought, well, maybe if you could have some sort of camera system from a thermal perspective, could you find them? So safety started coming into the fold, and I think that kind of stuck with us. I remember we were having a pint in a bar called Crows next to the RDS, and we were trying to figure out, what did we want to do, and we could have built cool tech and some cool SaaS systems, but I guess we really wanted to do something that had impact. That was really, really, really core to what we wanted to do. So that if we sat in another pub and we're talking to someone and told someone what we did, they would be like, oh shit, that's really cool. So that's really what we wanted to drive. And then Kieran's auntie was an operations manager on a factory floor in Ireland, and a guy got crushed by a forklift against a wall and died. They thought it was a freak accident, but when they went back through the CCTV, they saw that all of those behavior patterns and trends and little micro behaviors that were leading to that accident were actually happening all of the time. They just didn't know about it, because if you've ever been in a factory, it's wild. Like, there's so many noises, there's so much movement. They're on like the clock, so lots of stuff going on. It's really hard to spot these things. So they could have stopped it, and that's really where we were like, okay, I wonder, can we help? So we did Y Combinator in 2021, built off the back of that, and we're working with some awesome companies like DHL and Amazon and some huge logos across the globe to help them to protect their workers.
Very cool. And what data can you share about the company? So YC 2021, it's now 2025. Where's the company at the moment?
Yeah, we've grown pretty rapidly. So we've raised about 54 million to date over the course of the 4 years. But from a growth perspective, we've grown about 300% every single year, which really stems to, I think, the sentiment of the market has changed as well. So it probably started out like you said at the start, people were saying A1 instead of AI, or they trying to explain what artificial intelligence was before, and then the ChatGPT piece came out a few years back, and that we kind of rode that wave, and so did our clients. Just bringing in AI and having AI strategies, and skyrocketed really in the last probably 18 months. We're seeing a huge uptake, not only in the case of, hey, let's try out this cool tool, but really getting into the grips of, okay, how do we roll this out across all of our network?
So you're right. Obviously, the market sentiment, we're in this era of everybody getting very excited about AI, using AI, people, well, like CFOs, companies, buyers, focusing more on AI than, let's say, some traditional software. And so I think, obviously, if you're in that space, that the sentiment, the market, there's some nice tailwinds there for you. But if we can unpack maybe this 300% growth year over year a little bit. Sentiment certainly is going to be definitely helpful, right? What are some of the things that you have done, that Protex has done, to really kind of help you, hit these numbers?
So I think a big piece of it is really understanding, especially from a software perspective, is understanding our business model and where to play. We're very much enterprise focused. We don't mess around in mid-market or SMB. I like enterprise. I like the ugly sale, which a lot of people, I guess, don't. I love lots of stakeholders, lots of kind of relationship building. So we're very relationship focused piece to it. Funnily enough, our market is kind of like the Bible Belt in America, which is a lot of the factory based areas, or Tennessee's, Texas, Kentucky's. But I think where a lot of companies can fail when it comes to growth is trying to get quick wins under the belt. So they might go to like a lower down person in the company who doesn't have much power, but they'll be able to sign off maybe like a 10K contract or something like that, which is cool. And all power to you if you can do that. And if you're a product-led growth motion, that works really, really well. For dealing with enterprise and looking at kind of sustained growth and depth within clients, I think the only way to do that is top down and really focusing on building rapport and relationships with people higher up the food chain who can make those decisions. And they're a lot more fun to work with, I find, where you can really drive success criteria with them and understanding what makes them tick, and they can make big decisions, and that's where we like to play. So I think that motion of spending time and being okay with pushing out deals if it means that there's much more depth in it, that's where a lot of people tend to fail, because they'll just look for the quick wins and doesn't last as sustainable businesses.
No, I think that makes sense. So let's say if you're one of the existing customers that you've won, we imagine given it enterprise, sort of long sales cycle, how do you first get in front of that, like reach that customer? Like what is the motion there? Are they coming inbound? Is it outbound? Referrals, getting in there, then starting to build the relationship, mapping all of this out?
So from like a targeting perspective and how we get in the door, like foot in the door?
Yep.
I think, there's this quote that I always follow, and it's helped us with investment. And I've said it on another podcast before, but it's ask for money, get advice. Ask for advice, get money twice. Do you know who said that? Can you have any guesses who that's directly?
You know what? I feel like I've heard it, but no, I don't.
Some people say it's Steve Jobs. Some people say Bill Gates. Some people say other people. It's actually Pitbull, Mr. Worldwide. It's feel this moment. It's the first line of feel this moment. Yeah. So what I meant by that is, I think a lot of people going in just trying to sell hard on like your first message. Like your first message should just be get a meeting. And I do find that people higher up the food chain tend to be more receptive to startups. Funny enough, if you talk to kind of middle managers and whatnot, they will be less likely to jump on calls with you and be open to like innovation, because that's not their job. Their job is to hit their KPIs and whatnot, rather than do that. So we tend to go in and say, hey, look, we'd love to get your take on what we're working on, because we think it's cool. We think it'd be cool for your company. But no sweat if you don't want to. Just thought it would align to your AI strategy or something like that. And we tend to be pretty good on that regard. I think we're about 50-50 inbound, outbound. So we have pretty good stats in that regard. But certainly at the start, a lot of it was educating the market on what we did. And we've got competitors in the market. And I think we were all doing that. We were all helping each other out in regards to just talking about AI in the space. And I think companies trust us now that we're the right players to lean on when it comes to learning about AI and safety and operations.
What about, let's say, still on the topic of go to market? What are you using internally, maybe specifically, and it doesn't have to be like AI tools to kind of help you reach the customers? But then, like, second part, would like to know, you as a CEO, like, how do you use AI to kind of help you, within the business, and how you're, I guess the culture of the business, how you're pushing this across for people to, adapt to AI?
Yeah, I think things are changing with regards to how startups are being built with AI. Not in the case of just using systems for fun or making things faster, but rather a case of making things a lot more efficient. And there's a difference between speed and efficiency. So you see companies like Mistral AI, you see companies like Perplexity and whatnot, who are these awesome companies who are building multi-billion dollar companies with 40, 50 people. And it's a world we that's never happened beforehand, because scale has always been associated with growth of teams, and I think, and they've always been an inverse function to say, hey, if your team's really big, it's you're gonna need, or if you more revenue you have, the bigger team you have, but it's not actually that anymore. It's just being efficient. So I think that's a focus of ours, is how do we maintain team size and structure, but still making the company more efficient. So I'll give you an example of that from a team perspective. From our BD team, we have a system called Nux. If you haven't come across this awesome tool we use, which allows you to make like 10 dials instead of one at a time. So you're increasing the efficiency of that team. Similarly with we use like Claude a lot. We use for research to just speed up learning about different companies, different clients. And we're looking a lot more at AI efficiencies. to just reduce that. And similarly we have a system called Devon we use, which a lot of people are using now, from that kind of does the work of a level 1 software engineer. So there's those types of efficiencies where you just can make the whole team more efficient. So they can work on more things they want to work on, rather than kind of doing the dog work that's included. So I think the world of startups changing, and I think also investment sentiment and VCs have that expectation now that's a focus on looking at your revenue per head or your gross margin numbers. Because if you look at companies, or where those conversations would have existed beforehand, is when you're going to go for IPO or maybe a Series D or Series E. But now VC's expectations is that you're looking at this further, or a lot sooner rather, in your growth journey, rather than before your IPO.
What about yourself as CEO, and like, how are you using AI daily, weekly?
I'm still getting used to it. I think Kieran, my co-founder, he's awesome at it. Like, he's like, you should be using it for absolutely everything. I feel like I'm talking like my dad whenever I talk about AI. I'm like, but it doesn't know what I need. So still getting used to that. But I use Claude a lot. I use ChatGPT a lot for collecting notes. We use systems like, we don't use Gong. We use like a cheaper version of Gong.
Mm-hmm. What is that?
It's called the Theuma.
Okay.
Does pretty much the same thing. Not the crap on Gong by any means. I think they're an awesome company.
Yeah.
From a
That's
budget
fine.
perspective.
I mean, there are many different softwares out there, right? So it's good to know what's out there.
Yeah, so I use our Granola, if you've come across that. It's an awesome
Yep.
note-taking tool. It's getting really big now in the last while. Really love that system. I use it for everything, just to collate things. So I use it a lot for note-taking, a lot for like pulling a load of notes together, throwing into ChatGPT or Granola, and start querying that data. I think what I'd love to see as a next space is like creating these data lakes of all of your customer information, and then you could just query the information. HubSpot, we use HubSpot, but and it has HubSpot Copilot. I'm not a huge fan of it, to be honest. I think it's pretty. It reminds me of like Clippy from Microsoft Vista, Windows Vista. Just that you can just like ask questions and it just sends you more FAQs. But I think that's probably where the commercial functions are lacking, is this really cool system that you can just bring all your information to one and just ask it questions about clients.
Is it Granola for note taking? Are you just using that on video meetings, or does it work outside, or is it just for video meetings?
I use it for video meetings, so I'm going to use that and I merge it with ChatGPT to pull everything into one system, and then I'll have like projects in my ChatGPT. So if I have like conversations with people, whether it be internally or externally, I'll have like a project for each of those people, and I'll just pump all that into, that's on ChatGPT, so you can create projects. Mm-hmm. And pump all the information I have about an individual or whatever it may be, or even just voice note it. Into the voice notes are great, that function, into the project. And then if I ever have did they mention that, or I can't remember something about them, I'll go back into the system and query that. But I'll have like 30 different projects about different people, both internally and externally.
And so jumping back to the VC, so you've done Series B, so I imagine you've done pre-seed, seed, Series A, Series B, right? We're seeing occasionally there are these weird kind of seed, Series A, like joint things, or like, companies jumping straight to Series A. But the VC sentiment, obviously they want growth, but they want efficiency. So I imagine that they're pushing this sentiment towards you, and as you said, like asking Protex to be an efficient business. Are they also asking to be? Are this like efficiency? Are they asking for profitability as well, or probably not quite yet?
Not yet. I remember I actually just spoke to a startup recently, trying to give them a bit of advice. If you're in seed or Series A and they're asking about profitability, like soon, I don't think you're thinking about it the right way. They want you to grow, and your job should be just domination of the market, doesn't one way or the other, rather than a case of saying, hey, how quickly can we get to profitability. I think efficiency matters when it comes to just not wasting money, so not being negligent, rather than a case of trying to get to profitability. So do you need to make a hire? Can you look at it with the Shopify bring out there recently? They said, made something public where they said, if you're coming in looking for a hire, give me a business case first of why you're not doing that with AI. So I don't think they're looking for profitability, but I think the best VCs are looking at companies who are looking at the efficiency metrics, so your gross margins and your revenue per head against how much money you're actually bringing into the company.
What do you glad that you brought up the Shopify memo or whatever, like from Toby. What are your thoughts on that? And is this something that you also like do internally, like speaking to the teams as well?
Yeah, like we have a goal internally on efficiencies, which includes that of really getting under the hood of can it be done, and if it can't, that's fine. You know,
Yeah.
if it needs, that's absolutely fine because you're also dependent on what's in the market that you can shop for to bring in. So yeah, we are looking at that. I think most companies our stage would be silly not to. So we're definitely looking at it, but it's different for us than it is a huge company on how they're building. Actually, we're probably more dynamic in what we can bring in and try.
You're obviously doing a lot of things right if you've got 300% year over year growth. Obviously, not many are at that mark and aspire to do so. I'm sure as we're all learning on the job and, you know, everybody makes mistakes, companies make mistakes. Like, what would be sort of like one or two that you could highlight that is a good learning, you know, to kind of share with the audience that you've made, that you've learned from and moved on from?
Yes, between the two businesses, I think is like not moving quick enough to, especially to the US. With this company, we move very quickly to the US, but even I think you should just go straight. Especially now, it's none of this whole thing of I have to be in the US to sell to America. You can sell from anywhere to anywhere now. So that was definitely one. I think one mistake is, especially my last company, is really spend the time, and this company, spend the time to hire the people. The YC thing is, hire slow, fire fast. We've been really lucky in how we've hired in the past, but certainly we've made hires that weren't right. We probably left it too long to notice that. We tend to back the underdog, which you have to as a startup. That's your nature. But I think you need to be realistic on what's working and what's not. So that's probably one mistake we made.
On the first point, so you mentioned that you can sell to anywhere from anywhere now, right? And I agree, but also not moving to the States fast enough was the mistake. So what's been the benefit for you to, moving from Dublin to Boston when you could sell from Dublin, but what has been the benefit?
Yeah, I think I really love American business culture. I think the way I kind of describe it is you sell to a European, but an American buys from you. And that's and both work, but Americans are very transactional in the best sense. They're brought up learning business from day zero, and they ooze that, which is awesome to just be around. And some of the Europeans are a bit more of the see it as an art, being able to go and spend time and talk to lots of stakeholders and lots of stakeholder mapping, whereas the US is just let's go and get it done. The reason of the move to the US was because we have about 80% of our business is in the US, so we have some of the major global providers of logistics and manufacturing in the US are our clients, 4,500 companies. So we built a team out in Boston to spend time there. Reason for me being there is the culture piece as well, to make sure that you can't just set up remotely out there. We've got some fantastic people we've hired in the US, all super Boston. A lot of them are super Boston as well. I'm mad for a good accent.
Were you first on the ground there,
Yeah.
or did you build it? You were first and then built the team up?
First in the Boston office, but we had people remotely there, and then we built out there. And especially with our business, we need to be on the ground in regards to, we like going onto site, and because we sell to faction warehouses, it's very hard to get that from a Zoom call in comparison to actually standing in the middle of a warehouse with 10 forklifts almost hitting you is a lot different.
And we mentioned earlier in the podcast that you'll be speaking at SaaStock Europe this year, October 14th, 15th, at the RDS next to the pub where you and Kieran had a pint. You said the Crow, was that right?
Crows. It's right across the road. It's within eyeshot of the SaaStock.
I don't know if I've been in that one. I know there's a number of pubs opposite. So maybe I've missed that one, but you'll be at the RDS. You'll be speaking. Do you know yet? I know it's 3 months out, but you know what you'll be speaking about?
I think it's kind of up for grabs a little bit. I'm kind of excited in the sense of what's going to be there. We go to SaaStock every year. It's always a good time. The events around it are awesome all the time as well. I was in a karaoke bar at 12 a.m. with about 8 VCs at one stage.
Was that Chris Murphy leading that?
No, it wasn't. Who was leading? There was a lot leading it anyway. I know that.
Yeah.
So we had a bit of an X Factor / American Idol go with it with VCs, which was a weird world to be in. But it's so we're talking there's certainly about AI, but I think a lot about company growth. There's so many mistakes that startups have made, and I think we're in a new era now where the COVID era is kind of past finally, where you have these people raising massive rounds at stupid valuations, and they're all dying, those startups. And now there's this kind of new wave of startups that are creeping out using agents and whatnot. And I think we're going to see some really exciting stuff over the next 3-4 years.
Yeah, 100%. It's a very exciting time in the world of B2B. Depending on whether you're speaking on the Tuesday or Wednesday, just my advice to you, the night before speaking, don't be in the karaoke bar until 2 or 3 in the morning, led astray by those VCs. Even maybe unless you've got a term sheet for the next round, but you have to do what you got to do. But I do know that obviously it's good crack at SaaStock, because Dublin is a great city, and there's lots of evening events, and what we'll typically see on the Wednesday morning is a little bit of a slower pace, and some heavy heads with many. We are seeing also, again, I think just there is more of a trend for health and wellness, and so you see people going to the running clubs and the yogas and stuff and the gyms in the morning before SaaStock, but there's still plenty of distractions for the evening and the nightlife and the pubs and the pints. So yeah, will be a lot of fun. Looking forward to being back there, seeing you speak after being an attendee at SaaStock and sharing more of your story. So yeah, very excited for that. Dan, if people want to reach out to you, before then, after listening to the podcast, where's best to find you? I'm probably sure not many potential customers are listening to this, but any founders that may want to connect.
Yeah, by all means, always happy to chat and help out. Both myself and Kieran are pretty. I feel we're quite pretty generous with our time, because we want to be, especially in Ireland. We like seeing the Dublin scene taking off, which I think it has, especially in the last few years. Seen a lot of awesome companies coming through the pipeline. But yeah, get me on LinkedIn. Dan Hobbs, as my name should be. Put Dan Hobbs Protex and follow us on our LinkedIn page. We always post some cool content on it. But if any founders going into a market they're unsure of, the best advice we ever got, or not best advice, but best kind of comment we ever got was, it's a lot easier to think outside the box when you've never been in it. So don't be afraid to kind of tackle opportunities that maybe you're unsure of. It's a lot easier to kind of come in with fresh ideas to something that's already there.
Was that from another Pitbull song?
No, surprisingly not. I think it was Ariana. I think it's Ariana Grande. Actually, no. It was one of our partners in Canada. Actually said it in a beautiful,
very cool.
accent.
Well, if you want to catch Dan at SaaStock Europe, dropping some Pitbull inspired advice, or just kind of learn from his scaling story, then get a ticket to SaaStock, and we'll have a good time and learn from some of the most exciting AI and SaaS companies that are out today. But Dan, thanks for being such a great guest on the show. Looking forward to seeing you in Dublin, maybe having a pint in the Crows if we find it, as you said, opposite the RDS. But yeah, looking forward to it, and we'll see you in October. Thanks so much, Dan Hobbs, CEO of Protex.
Super. Thanks, Alex.